Hey everybody, it's Chris Jesty, and I'm actually going to be going over my Camron Heat matches. So I've recorded all three of them. I've chopped them up into what I consider important parts. I'm going to go in chronological order of when I played these matches. So my first round was against Nitroburst, my second round was against Jagaroo, and my third match was against Trailblazer. We're going to cover the match I had with Nitro. This video is going to be a little short because of an oopsie. There was a corrupted recording, so I don't have most of this match. I only have the last few rounds, but I'm going to try to give you as much of a breakdown as I can of the first couple rounds as possible. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. Nitro had a very nasty brawling list. He had those two Dragoons. One had an AC-20, the other had three LRM-15s. He had an SRM carrier, and yeah, he had a Jackrabbit Joker, as well as the Turhan Urban Combat Vehicle you can see here. There's a Dervish hiding behind this building for now, and he also had an SRM carrier. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown. Basically, I walk up with my shootist, my Kudo, which is now down here, currently in really bad shape. And I go around the top with the hoplite and the mongoose that I have. But the shootist, the Kudo, and what's my other mech that the sling. Oh, the sling went up top. There we go. The shootist, the Kudo, and and the Kintaro went down this way. To go brawl with the two Dragoons. So within the first three turns, I will say Nitro did admit he made a mistake with his SRM carrier. He should have left it in one of these two hexes behind the level 1 building to protect the objective. This was capture the flag, so I do have to go to him if I want to play to the objective, and he technically is supposed to go to me if he wants to play for the objective. He made the mistake of pulling his SRM carrier out to try to bring it into the brawl. And within the first three turns, I poked it down before it ever got a shot out. I just went through its very thin armor with my PPCs and LRMs within the first three turns. With that being said, also within the first 3 to 4 turns, he came up on the north with his Jackrabbit, which is the only really kind of fast objective running mech he had. The Turhan's not very fast. The SRM carrier is obviously not very fast. The Dervish is also not very fast, and neither are the two Dragoons. Those things are monsters that are meant for brawling. So the Jackrabbit was his only shot at really running the objective. And unfortunately, we had a bit of an exchange up top with my sling and his Jackrabbit. My sling came up through the top section, and on turn 2 or 3, it took an internal hit on its torso with the ammo and went kabloom. And the very next turn, I did the same exact thing to his Jackrabbit. I think I hit it with a large laser, and then it went kaboom. And basically, once his Jackrabbit went kaboom, he felt like he did not have the tools necessary to run the objective effectively. And he kind of just gave up on it and went all out into brawl mode. And I felt like I still had enough mobility between all the mechs on my list. The hoplite's 5'8", the mongoose is 8'12", and the Kudo is also no slouch. The Kintaro's 5'8", so I felt like I had a chance at making it to the objective if I stuck together and moved up as a group with my bunch of 3 mechs down here. As you can see, those two Dragoons made me pay for it. The hoplite only survived because he wasn't in range of the Dragoons. He went around to the north and was poking the whole time. But the Dragoons took out my shootist, which is my big brawly mech, took out my Kintaro, which is my most skilled, most dangerous mech that had the narc beacon, before they went down. Really royally messed up the Kudo. The only reason the hoplite survived, and I think they killed the mongoose too, because the mongoose is nowhere to be found at this point. So they killed 3 mechs for the 2 of them, and brutally mauled a 4th. So they made a good showing. They just got outmaneuvered because I had more units than them and eventually went down. That's the squish right there and another squish right there. of another mech brutally dying. There's the SRM carrier squish. But our current state now is we're on like turn 11 or 12, something like that. I don't recall off the top of my head, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. I also didn't get the combat log for this, unfortunately. But I've got one mech that's viable for scoring. He's got a dervish that I know he's hiding behind these buildings, because that's literally the only thing that you can hide behind. Everything else is too small to hide behind. So, and the Turhan urban combat vehicle. So he decides to come out from behind the building with his dervish, and he moves his Turhan combat vehicle here to kind of bottleneck me. I don't really want to get too close to that dervish. That Turhan urban combat vehicle has 2 large lasers, which are very scary. I mean, the hoplight's no slouch. It's got some armor, but it's a long-range poker. I've got a PPC and an LRM-15, I think. And it's either an LRM-15 or an LRM-10. I think it's a 15. So I move into the Turhan's hex, so that way he can't shoot me, and I get a free kick on him, and I shoot at the dervish. So I get lucky with the kick. I stun the crew. The Turhan urban combat vehicle is still fully operational. It just did armor damage and got crew stunned. The dervish, I shaved a little bit. So he decides to move the Turhan urban combat vehicle straight up to get away from the hoplite. I have to commit pretty hard and expose my rear, sort of, because I'm only a 5'8" or a 4'6" on this bad boy. So I don't really want to go chasing it. And luckily I won initiative, so he had to move first. So I moved the Kudo up, which miraculously woke up, because I think he's got 3 or 4 pilot hits right now. I wasn't expecting him to move again. So I scooch him up to try and contribute something, even if it's a kick or a punch to the fight. But I back up the hoplite and get to 7 hexes away from the Turhan, so I get the perfect short range shot on the Turhan from the rear arc. And this time I do get a motive crit to get him immobile. So the Turhan is now considered crippled, so I get the points for that, which I don't think really mattered, because at this point we had both lost 4 units, which I think would have maxed out our combat score anyway. So now it's basically fighting for survival. The dervish does close the gap a little bit. He only walked to get here, and he unloads into me. Does a decent amount of damage, gets me down into yellow. I stand still for the next turn, and this time I get the engine crit and lock the turret on the Turhan. So now I don't have to worry about those large lasers hitting me anymore. And I also move up this way after he stood still with his dervish. And the next turn, I move up, cap the flag. This is literally turn 14. I cap the flag, I don't fire anything, and his dervish is out of position to really punish me for it. Yeah, he can see me, but the range is so far with these inner sphere weapons that he's not really going to do much damage to me. And turn 15, I just get further away from the dervish. The Turhan's turret is locked facing away from me, and that's it. That's all she wrote for the match. So this one, like I said, is going to be short because I don't have all the information that I normally would. Nitro played well. I mean, he made a really good showing with those Dragoons, taking out 2, more than double their number in mechs, basically. He did end up finishing off my Kudo with the dervish in response. So he did get a little more, combat score, if that matters, which I don't think it will. But we ended up finishing the match 50-40, the lowest scoring win I think you could possibly get. And the only reason I was able to pull that off is because I full committed bringing my entire force onto his side of the map and taking the fight to him. If I held back and, had a goalkeeper or kept my distance from him and didn't commit to the brawl with those Dragoons, I probably would have ended up tying Nitro 40-40. And he probably would have ended up winning, honestly, if it just came down to the combat, just because those Dragoons wrecked so much shop. It was really, really disgusting how brutal it was. My shootist, which is my best brawling mech, didn't really stand a chance. Yeah, I'm trading AC-20 slugs with a Dragoon, and the Dragoon is winning. And then the other Dragoon is lobbing just as much poke back at me with one mech as I am throwing back with 2 or 3 mechs. The Kudo and the Hoplite together don't have the firepower that Dragoon with the 3 LRM-15s does. It was just a mismatch in the combat sector, to the point where I had to full commit onto the objective and move everything across the map and hope something made it through the Dragoon gauntlet. And luckily the Hoplite was able to skirt around the edges and eventually get to it barely in the nick of time on turn 14. That's as close as it gets. I snuck out a win, little cheeky one against Nitro, but he played a really good match and beat the hell out of me. So round 1 is over and I'm up 1-0 with a 50-point win. So well played, Nitro. Sorry for your loss, but I had to do it. just because I was in position to, I had to get that flag. So playing to the objective will win you games. So stay in there and never give up, never surrender. And that's it for my round 1 recap. This one's really short. I know, probably the shortest video I've ever put out. That's not a YouTube short, but it is what it is. I'll see you guys in the next round when I play Jagaroo on Signal Trace, which will probably be coming out later next week. Good night, everybody.